Hello, YouTube! Welcome to Streets of New Capenna set review for Historic Brawl. I'm going to go through some cards that I think are interesting. I'm not going to cover every card because there are a lot of cards and I don't wanna. I'm just gonna do it in Wooburg order, then do colorless plus lands, and then multicolored at the end. We're gonna start with white. They're in no particular order. They're in a kind of... No, they're not in an order. Just, they're in Wooburg order, and then within that order, it's really messed up. Hi, ma'am. Okay, so we're going to start with Gyata, Font of Hope. She is a 1/2/2/2 legendary creature angel with flying and vigilance, and reads, each other angel you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each angel you already control. Tap, add white, spend this mana only to cast an angel spell. So, for Historic Brawl, I don't think this is a particularly good commander. I think you want to have white-black or white-green angel commanders. You know, you want multicolored, because the selection of angels is kind of small on Arena, but I do think this is an important piece for angels, not just because it's a playable 2-drop, but the ramp and the counters are so huge here. This could honestly put angels into a good bracket. I think Gyata is pretty good, and we'll see a bit of play in angels decks. I'm interested to see how she does, because it's a good card. Just even as like a 2/2 flyer with vigilance for 2. Hi. And no other text, you're kind of just windmill slamming this in even white aggro decks. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I closed the wrong window. Cool. Oh god. No? Hello? Where, why is it? Okay. Well, this is going well. We'll close that. Alright. Click on this, so when I hit Control W, it closes this window. There we go. Next up, we have Inspiring Overseer. For 2 and a white, you get a 2/1 Angel Cleric with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. This is kind of a role player angel, and it's 3 mana, so angels kind of... The bulk of angels curve starts at 4, so getting both a 2 mana angel and a 3 mana angel in the same set, both which with really good text on them, I think puts angels in a good position. And drawing cards is always good, right? And this is, there was a dwarf in, I think, Kaldheim that has the same text minus flying. And we like having effects in this format where you have multiple copies of the same card, essentially. So having one that flies and one that doesn't, pretty good. Get to draw your card on 3 mana and put a 2/1 into play. So yeah, I think this will see play both in angels and in just like other white decks looking to have a 3-drop that draws a card. Pretty good card. Rumor Gatherer. 1 white for an elf wizard 2/1 has Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, scry 1. If this is the second time this ability has resolved this turn, draw a card instead. So there's a token theme for one of the families in New Capenna, and this plays right into it. It's kind of weird that this is an elf wizard in white, because those are 2 creature subtypes that you don't really expect to see in this color, but getting scries for 1, 3, and for your first creature other than this, and then the third plus creature is really good, and then the second creature drawing you a card is very good. So look to put this next to a bunch of tokens. It is a little weak as a 2/1, but we've seen a 2/1 already. And, you know, you have to work for this draw more than the last one, but I still think it's worth it because it's repeatable. So, be interesting to see what tokens pop up, honestly. I want to build a token stack with Jetmir. This slides into that. It's a draw a bunch of cards, so see how that goes. Sanctuary Warden, 4 white for a 5/5 Angel Soldier with flying. When it enters the battlefield with 2 shield counters on it, and whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may remove a counter from a creature or planeswalker you control. If you do, draw a card and create a 1/1. The thing about this, the reason I had to change how I read it was the first line of text happens before the enters the battlefield effect, so you can remove a shield counter from Sanctuary Warden to draw a card and create a 1/1. So this is like a 6 mana 5/5 flyer that comes with a 1/1 and draws a card. Is an angel, very relevant subtype, big old beater. It's a little on the expensive side, but it does protect itself. Shield counters say the first time this would be dealt damage or destroyed, instead remove a shield counter from it. So it's got a little bit of protection, not quite hexproof, not quite ward. But I think the shield counters are gonna be a little bit weaker than they sound on their face, but still very, very good. And if you're able to remove a counter from a different creature to draw a card to make a 1/1, then this is a very difficult to remove card. So I like it in the Angel deck. I like it in big white style decks. Maybe there's a green-white ramp deck that can get up to this. So yeah. Hold for Ransom, 1 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature, enchanted creature, can't attack or block, and has 7 or pay 7. Hold for Ransom's controller sacrifices and draws a card. Activate only as a sorcery. I put this here because this is another pacifism for Enchantress style decks, but I don't think this one makes the cut, because while I want to compare the giving your opponent the ability to make you sacrifice this to Heliod's Punishment. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the 2 mana aura that pacifies the creature and then puts 3 counters on it, and they can tap or 4 counters on it, and they can tap the creature to remove a counter, and once all the counters are removed, they can attack again. I think there are too many strategies where ramping to 7 is a lot easier than tapping over 4 turns. Since there are so many like actual pacifism effects and there's Heliod's, I think this doesn't make the cut. It'll probably sit on the sideline as the 101st card, or like the 8th or 9th pacifism that you're just not going to run because you have so many other good ones. Rafine's Guidance, single white mana for enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1. You may cast it from your graveyard by paying 2 and a white rather than paying its mana cost. So this card I would play in my green-white auras deck, or like SRAM or Lightfoot, or Light Paws rather. You do like 1 mana auras, and you especially like auras that cast from the graveyard. The question would be what you would cut to make room for this, because I don't think you're cutting another 1 mana spell. The 1 mana auras that you're playing give Vigilance, make a 1/1, can already be bought back from the graveyard for a little bit less than this. So it means you'd probably have to cut something higher up the curve, and I don't think you can do that. So this is a good card, but the lack of a keyword like Vigilance or lack of creating a token when it enters play might put this on the sideline over some of the cards we already have. Halo Fountain, 2 white artifact, white and tap, untap a tap creature you control, create a 1/1. White tap, untap 2 creatures you control, draw a card. And then for 5 white and tap, untap 15 creatures you control, you win the game. Is this card good? Probably not. Is this card amazing and fun and something I'm going to try? Definitely. The tricky part will be the untap. So we're going to have to use Convoke or... Because if you're attacking with 15 creatures... Although that said, it did just occur to me. 15 1/1s probably aren't winning the game. But if you attack with them, and then before damage, you untap them, because you can do this at instant speed. I'm also kind of interested in putting this alongside the exert creatures. So that, like, you attack with an exerted creature, then you untap it and make a 1/1. You can put it next to the extra attack step creature, the Celebrant. Something Celebrant. Combat Celebrant. And then you untap it, and somehow it's protected from dying because it's a 4/1. But yeah, and then you get another few attack steps to win the game. So I like... There's a little bit of utility to this with the first ability being so cheap that I think it might be worth trying a couple things with. And then the bottom two lines are just gravy, right? Those are just extra things that when you get to activate those, you're feeling smart, you're feeling thin, you're drawing cards, you're winning the game maybe. Yeah, this is actually better than I initially gave it credit, now that I'm thinking about using it during attack steps. So I want to put this in like a Boros aggro deck. I want to put this in Jetmir. And I want to win. I want to win at least one game with this thing. Oh God, thank God. All right, I'm gonna take a sip here. Elspeth Resplendent is a Elspeth Planeswalker for 3 white. Comes in with 5 loyalty. +1. Choose up to 1 target creature. Put a +1/+1. Put a +1/+1 counter and a counter from among flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance on it. -3. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may put a permanent card with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And -7. Create 5 3/3 white angel creature tokens with flying. 5 mana is a lot, but it does come in essentially at 6 loyalty. The +1... I think the +1 giving you a choice between flying, first strike, lifelink, or vigilance really helps this card a lot. I think if it was just like +1/+1 and this gets first strike until end of turn, or this gets flying until end of turn, it'd be on the weaker side. But the fact that these are counters... And there are some cards that care about removing counters. So, +1, pretty good. The -3, I think, is honestly the best part of this. At the least, you get a ramp, which you're kind of sad about, but you're looking at 7 cards. If you can't find something in the top 7, then you've probably built your deck a little bit on the wrong side. Obviously, the -7 is amazing. It's a -7 on a Planeswalker. Little sad that they're 3/3s and not 4/4s, but that's still 15 damage in the air. And then the next turn, you can make it 16 with the +1 if you kept this at 8. So, pretty good. I think this is good in like a medium-sized deck. Like, you're not super low aggro and you're not over the top ramp or something like that, but you're playing not necessarily questing beast, but a creature like that style creature, like 4s and 5s. 3s to 5s are like your bread and butter creatures. Rabble Rousing. 4 and a white for an enchantment with Hideaway 5. I'm going to read that text really quick. When this enchantment enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom in a random order. And then this card says, whenever you attack with 1 or more creatures, create that many 1/1 green and white citizen creature tokens. Then, if you control 10 or more creatures, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana costs. So this being 5 mana is kind of the thing that I'm kind of squinting at. It is a slower format though for Historic Brawl, and you're already playing things like Felidar Retreat in your token style deck. So yeah, you play this on 4 or 5, exile a card, then 10 or more creatures. The problem with these tokens cards is a lot of them feel like you're already in a position where you're winning the game if you meet the condition for the card. That's kind of what my brain is having a hard time wrapping around. I want to say this card is good, but I'm also not sure what you're casting for free that you couldn't just cast normally. But free is free. Look, Jetmir still exists, so as long as Jetmir exists, this card's probably going to see play. Patch up, 2 and a white sorcery. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Return up to 3 target creature cards with total mana value 3 or less. So you can bring back 3 1 drops, 2 cards, or 1 3 drop. I think my initial read of this, I missed the total mana value 3 or less. Lurrus likes this card a lot. Decks that are playing Lurrus style cards. It only hits creatures too, but oh, I know exactly what deck this could go in. Is the mono white historic deck that absolutely steamrolled us the other day, because they play just a bunch of 1-drops. Although I guess their 1-drops they want to take to their hand, not to the battlefield, so that's kind of interesting. Yeah, mostly I just see this as a Lurrus card. It even has a cat on it, so pretty appropriate for that deck. Bring back a few of your 1-drops, your 2-drops, and get more value off of the fact that you're playing Lurrus. Ledger. Oh, now we're into blue. So that concludes blue or white, and we're on to blue. Ledger Shredder. A 2-mana 1/3 bird advisor for 1 in a blue. It has flying, and it says whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, Ledger Shredder connives. This is our first instance of connive. Connive says draw a card, then discard a card. If you discarded a non-land card, a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So Legal Eagle here is I find this one interesting because it doesn't say whenever you cast your second spell each turn. It says whenever a player. So it's gonna connive more than you might think. So I like this in cantrippy decks. I like this in a lot of places. Honestly, it's just as a bird that's probably going to attack as a 2/3 more often than not. Oh, you could even do this in like a blitz style deck where you're pumping Ledger Shredder with like pump spells, and then because you're casting multiple pump spells, it then gets +1/+1 counter on it. Ooh. And it's like going through your deck pretty hard because you're conniving basically every turn. Yeah, I like this card a lot. I like it as an aggro card, but obviously there's some amount of desire to have this in control. Although I don't like it in control that much, because control is usually passing the turn and then making sure their opponents only cast 1 spell. Yeah, I kind of like this in a prowess style deck. Interesting. That's not the conclusion I thought I was going to come to with this card, but yeah, I like this where you're pumping it up yourself. Reservoir Kraken. A very large Kraken. It's 2 blue for a 6/6. It has trample and ward 2. It says at the beginning of each combat, if Reservoir Kraken is untapped, Any opponent may tap an untapped creature they control. If they do, tap the Kraken and create a 1/1 fish with this creature can't be blocked. So the idea is your opponent will not have any creatures in play, and you will just have a 4-mana 6/6 Trampler. Otherwise, you're just making a 1/1 every turn. That can't be blocked, which is also fine. It's kind of like a factory for your Curiosity deck. You know, Curiosity, Curious Obsession. There's a new Curiosity style card. Just play all of those. There's that enchantment from a commander set that whenever a creature you control deals combat damage, you draw a card. Then you just make a bunch of 1/1s and you hit in, draw all the cards. So it's weirdly a tempo deck. And it protects itself with Ward 2, and then you just sort of tempo their creatures off the board, and then you have a 6/6 and a few 1/1s that are getting in and winning you the game. This card is a house. Yeah, like it. I almost hit add to deck because I'm so used to building decks when I do things on the site. Undercover Operative is 2 blue for a 0/0 shapeshifter rogue. You may have Undercover Operative enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature on the battlefield, except it enters with a shield counter on it if you control that creature. So if you copy your creature, it has a shield counter. If you copy theirs, it doesn't. The most relevant part about this is that it's an even costed clone that can hit your opponent's creatures. So this is another card for the Gyruda deck. Oh my god, I got there. We don't have a lot. I think I counted it was 4 now with Undercover Operative, but so it's the one with Jace on it. There's this one. There's the one from Amonkhet. Swear there's one more that it's from like Kaldheim. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the 4th one. So it gives more clones for Gyruda, essentially. And I like the fact that you can target your opponent's stuff. So pretty good. Witness Protection. Single blue aura that enchants a creature and says enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green and white citizen creature with base power and toughness 1/1 named Legitimate Business Person. It loses all other colors, card types, creature types, and names. So this card is this set's I should really write notes for these things in the future. It is this set's what is that card called? I can see it in my head. Reprobation. That's the one. Yeah, it's this set's Reprobation. I think Reprobation's better, even though it costs more. Giving your opponent 1 power, less than ideal. But this costing 1 mana is huge. It makes me want to brew that Sultai commander, Enchantress commander that makes a frog friend. I never got around to that, but having more of this style effect, especially at 1 mana, makes that deck even more playable. These style effects are insane in Historic Brawl because you're always putting it on their commander, and it's always a feel bad for your opponent. So I expect that this card is going to be very good and very annoying. Do I think these style effects should be in the format? Next card. Slip out the back. 1 mana instant for a blue. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It phases out. Never here. I like this card a lot. It's another single mana protection spell for Blitz style decks or for Prowess style decks. That's probably all it's going to be. It's super narrow, but it's also super cheap, and it does exactly what you want it to do. good against sweepers is the important part. Most blue cards like this give hexproof, but the fact that this phases it out means you can protect your creature against sweepers. I think this is probably a better dive down, but you're probably also playing dive down. So yeah, flip out the back, put it in your blitz style decks. An offer you can't refuse. 1 blue mana for an instant. Counter target non-creature spell. Its controller creates 2 creates 2 treasure tokens. Discard. If you were to believe Magic Twitter, card is broken in every which way. Going to see all the play. Combo decks, unstoppable now. But if I'm to believe my experience, I will go for a combo. They will have the counter spell. I will cast an offer you can't refuse. And then they will crack 2 treasures that I have just given them and cast the second counter spell. So, knowing those 2 extremes, this card is probably going to fall somewhere in the middle. I think this card is going to feel fine. So if you have a combo deck, I'm thinking like, thinking the Omniscience combo with a Luna, especially, would like this card. Then yeah, go for it, sure. A funny thought I just had was there's Manglehorn, I believe it's called, where your opponent's artifacts enter the battlefield tapped. So you just like give them 2 tap treasures. It's like, anyway, I'm gonna keep comboing. But that's what you call too cute. Wiretapping. For 4 and a blue, you get an enchantment with Hideaway 5. Whenever you draw your first card during each of your draw steps, draw a card. Then, if you have 9 or more cards in hand, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. I like this card because it's just a 5 mana, one-sided Howling Mine. And maybe you'll cast a card for free. You don't care what the card is because you're just drawing cards. But it's a little on the expensive side. But that could be to its benefit because by the time you're able to cast this, you'll want more cards in your hand anyway. So this could be a stall breaker in control mirrors. It's just like a Howling Mine for yourself. Just all for yourself. Yeah. I might put this in the Obscura deck I'm building. That's built around a commander we'll see later, where every time you draw a card, your opponents lose a life and you gain a life. I'm definitely putting this in that deck, actually. Yes, I added it to the correct deck. Awesome. Security Bypass. 1 in a blue for an aura. Enchant creature. As long as enchanted creature is attacking alone, it can't be blocked. And it has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, it connives. So this is the spell I was talking about earlier. It's another curiosity effect for your mono blue style tempo decks. It might actually be a little bit wrong to have the Kraken and Security Bypass together because you're making multiple 1/1s, but I think that's a situation where the Kraken is good and Security Bypass are good, so you just play your good cards. And it does say that you still have the curiosity effect if it isn't attacking alone. So if you're putting it on one of your 1/1s that can't be blocked, this is fine anyway. So yeah, actually, this card's great with that card. This card's great with Kraken. Play it with Kraken. Yep. Even though it's 2 mana, it's still great. I think the added text makes it just a little bit better than Curiosity for the price anyway, but obviously you want Curiosity because it's 1 cheaper. Well, Curiosity is better because it's any damage, and then it gets broken with certain dragon commanders who shall not be named, but yeah. I'm thinking of a lower to the ground tempo style aggro deck for this, and I think it'll do just fine there. A little chat. 1 in a blue for an instant. Casualty 1. This is our first instance of casualty. Casualty reads, as you cast this spell, you may sacrifice a creature with power in or greater when you do copy this spell. And in this case is 1, so you just have to sacrifice a 1 power creature to copy the spell. And what do you get? Look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the other on the bottom of your library. I'm going to take a sip here really quick. So for this card, I want to build... I've already built a casualty deck that is Grixis with a bunch of the creatures that whenever you cast a spell, they make another creature. This fits right in there. We're going to be sacrificing 1/1 elementals from our young pyromancers so that we can draw extra cards. And the 1/1 will come back because we have young pyromancer in play. I don't know if you want to cast this just on its face. I think you want to have a deck that can reliably make 1 power creatures that you don't mind sacrificing. But it is an instant, so in a pinch, I don't think this is the worst Anticipate ever made. So, yeah, try it out. I think you will feel perfectly fine with this. All-Seeing Arbiter, 4 blue for a 5/4 avatar with flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever you discard a card, target creature an opponent controls gets -X/-0 until your next turn, where X is the number of different mana values among cards in your graveyard. I'll be honest, I put this card here because I had 10 cards for all the other colors, but I only had 9 for blue. It's big. It flies. It doesn't protect itself. But you immediately draw 2 and discard a card, which is nice. It self-fuels its second ability. I think because it's a 6-drop, its second ability is a little bit better. You know, this enters the battlefield and you discard a card. It's later in the game. Excuse me. So you're able to blank one of their creatures more reliably once you cast this. Solidly for me. All right. That concludes blue. We're moving on to black now, and we have Tenacious Underdog to start us off. It's a 2-mana 3/2 human warrior for 1 in a black. Has Blitz for 2 black, pay 2 life. And Blitz says, if you cast this spell for its Blitz cost, it gains haste. And when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. Then the text under that says, you may cast Tenacious Underdog from your graveyard using its Blitz ability. This card is insane. This is very aggressive. You just love every line of text on this card. Of note, even if your opponent stonewalls this, you know, it just dies in combat, you still draw a card. Plus, this going into your graveyard is something you're perfectly fine with. You know, you just cast it again next turn. And it says pay 2 life in the Blitz cost. We're fine with that. We're living on the edge here. We're an aggro deck. We're blitzing this thing all of the time. And we have a payoff for it that we'll get to in a moment. I think this card is a slam dunk. I want to play a black aggro deck that has Tenacious Underdog. Very excited about this card. Sanguine Spy is a 2/3 vampire rogue for 2 in a black with menace and lifelink. Has 1 and sacrifice another creature. Look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your graveyard at the beginning of your end step. If there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. I like this card for a few reasons. 1, it's a vampire. I already have a mono black vampire deck. Sorin, the something, the 3-drop Planeswalker card slots in there. 2, sacrifices creatures. So there is a sub-theme in vampires where sacrificing creatures is actually really good. You have the Cordial Vampire that puts +1/+1 counters on each vampire you have whenever a vampire dies. So that helps there. And then it just has like this filtering that you have going on. And the fact that it pays for its last ability, it has lifelink, so you gain 2 life every time it deals damage. And vampires just gain so much life. Like, let's be real here. So paying 2 life is whatever. To draw a card? Yeah, I'm all in on this card. It also slots into sacrifice decks, I guess. I don't know. I don't play those things. No, it's definitely a good. It's an okay sacrifice outlet. Only 1 mana is fine, and the ability that you get with it's pretty good. So, ooh, baby boy, got a large lad here. Shakedown Heavy is a 6/4 for 2 and a black Ogre Warrior with Menace. Whenever Shakedown Heavy attacks, defending player may have you draw a card. If they do, untap Shakedown Heavy and remove it from combat. Whew. This card, your opponent has 2 choices. Either they throw 2 creatures under the very large bus, or they have you draw a card. And then have to ask that question again next turn. It just... I love so much about this card. It's gonna go in the same deck as the prized fighter or whatever the blitz card that we talked about first. I think there are a couple other cards that this card is very good next to. The green hideaway card especially. It's looking for a 7 power creature to cast the card for free, and this is right next to 7. Easy to pump this up to a 7 power card. So many ways we can use this. It makes your Great Hinge cheaper. It wears well, I wouldn't say it wears an Embercleave that well, because they can choose to let you draw a card. But, you know, letting aggro draw a card, that's always ended up just fine, right? Right? Body Launderer. It's a 4 mana 3/3 Ogre Rogue for 2 black. It has Death Touch and says whenever another non-token creature you controls, Body Launderer connives, so you draw a card and discard a card. If you discard a non-creature card or non-land card, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. It says whenever Body Launderer dies, return another target non-rogue creature card with equal or lesser power from your graveyard to the battlefield. I'm fond of 4 mana Death Touchers in black. They're usually pretty good. This one's no exception. There is a little bit of dancing to make him worth it, and the fact that your creatures have to die, but you're in black, I'm sure you can figure something out. Cat left. Chair rocks, cat left. And then once you get to sacrificing Body Launderer, you can get back your big bomb dragons. If you're in the Jund Sacrifice deck. Or you just live with the fact that you have like a 7/7 Death Toucher that's just getting in every turn. A little small to start. Would have liked like a 3/4 Death Toucher. My boy. But yeah, no, okay. I just thought about Gonti, and this is bigger than Gonti, so it's probably fine. Cemetery Tampering, 2 and a black enchantment. Hideaway 5. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may mill 3 cards. Then if there are 20 or more cards in your graveyard, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. That's so many cards. 20 cards in your graveyard. I've definitely been there. When we were playing Rudstein, old Rudstein, we definitely had more than 20 cards in our graveyard. I don't know how reliably a self-mill deck is going to be able to hit the type of card they want to put under a hideaway, though. Even when you're looking at 5. Like, you're putting so much risk into this when you're self-milling that you're going to hit the cards that you want you're gonna mill the cards that you want to hit with Cemetery Tampering. The truth is, I've never played with Hideaway, so I don't know how well it's going to work. I do like the 3-mana ones more than the 5-mana ones, although the blue 5-mana one just says draw an extra card every turn, so that's fine. So, like, you have Old Redstein, you have Reanimator-style decks, like Olivia. Oh. So with Olivia, you get to mill your creatures into your graveyard, hide away, and then you're either hiding away your Reanimate spell, or you're hiding away your big fatties. Although, I would hope you win the game before you have 20 cards in your graveyard with Olivia. Been my experience, at least. Alright. Here we go. So this is what I was talking about with Blitz. With the Blitz fighter that you have to pay 2 life. This is Shadow of Mortality. For 13 black, you get a 7/7 avatar. It says, if your life total is less than your starting life total, this spell costs X less to cast, where X is the difference. So in Historic Brawl, your life total starts at 25. So if you're at 12 life, this is a black 7/7. Gosh, if only black had ways to get to 12 life. I think Shadow of Mortality is better than Death Shadow, specifically in Historic Brawl, because it's okay to chill and ramp for a bit, and you have so much more life to work with. You don't have to get down to 12 to get a 1-mana 1/1. You get down to 12, you have a 2-mana 7/7. So, and you can cast this before you get down to 12 life. I think this is going to be a big beater. There should be a mono black aggro deck that's just like tanking its life, punishing the opponent, playing Death Shadow, Shadow Mortality, the 2-drop one. Yeah, this might be the last piece to that mono black archetype, honestly. Duskmangler. A 5/4 horror for 5 black. It says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature, discard a card, or pay 4 life. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices a creature, discards a card, and loses 4 life. First of all, 2 things to note. 1, in your segment of the extra cost, there is an or, and in your opponent's segment, there's an and. And 2, you're not casting this card. This is a reanimate target, if I've ever seen one. It is just like, you pay your 5 mana for your reanimate spell, get a 5/4, they sacrifice a creature, discard a card, and lose 4 life. Give this haste, and then it's a 5/4 with a Bond of Mortality, I think it's called. The 5 mana reanimate spell that gives haste. Whew. Olivia loves this card. Redstein loves this card. Any old stick fingers. Just anything where you're reanimating. Plop this into play. Make your opponent suffer. And then, honestly, if you cast it for 7 mana and pay 4 life. Yeah. Vampire Scrivener is a 5 mana 2/2 vampire warlock for 4 and a black. So it has flying, and whenever you gain life during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Vampire Scrivener. Whenever you lose life during your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Vampire Scrivener. The vampire with flying that cares about gaining life goes straight into Sorin. That's about it. I think it's a little expensive for that mono black deck we were talking about. Yeah, if you give this lifelink, it enables itself. Sorin gives it lifelink, so. Cool. Play it in Sorin. Extract the Truth, 1 in a black sorcery. Choose 1. Target opponent reveals their hand. You may choose a creature, enchantment, or planeswalker card from it. That player discards that card. Or you can choose target opponent sacrifices enchantment. I've played a lot of mono black, and there are like 2 somewhat playable enchantment removal spells. I don't think letting your opponent choose the enchantment is worthwhile. And I think the duress style effect on this is not the best. So this is a modal card with 2 medium modes on it. You have to ask yourself, are you okay with that? Or would you just rather play, you know, Thoughtseize and other good cards? Flexibility is good, but I don't think this card makes the cut in even discard style decks. Graveyard Shift, 5 mana sorcery for 4 and a black. It has flash as long as there are 5 or more mana values among cards in your graveyard. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Up and at 'em, buddy. We've got more work to do. This is the most I've talked in so long. So this is another 5 mana reanimate spell that could possibly will most likely have flash in your reanimate deck. I guess the relevance there is against graveyard hate and removal spells so that you can do it at the end of their turn. But I think this beats out the vanilla reanimate spells. But the ones that you can do for dirt cheap, like you have Blood for Bones, there's the Foretell one that you're doing for 4, and you have Bond of Mortality or Revival or whatever that gives it haste. You have the one that gives lifelink. You have the one that when you discard it, you can pick a creature up from your graveyard. So there are 5 that I would rather play over this. So if you're looking for 6 or 7 reanimate spells, this might see the cut. Oh, and I forgot the black-white one. Unburial Rites. I would probably play over this as well, but depending on what colors your decks are. The reason I couldn't think of Unburial Rites is because my Reanimator deck of choice is either green-black or black-red, so it's not on my radar. But yeah, so there are other options that I think do just a little bit more than has flash. But if you're looking to have, 8 or 9 reanimate spells, this might make your cut. All right. I'm going to say that was part 1. How long have I been going? I've been going for 48 minutes. No, I can do this. Soldier through. Oh, look at how many tabs there are. All right. Devilish Valet is a 3-mana 1/3 Devil Warrior for 2 and a red. Has Trample and Haste. And it has Alliance, which is, I guess it's technically, it's not a keyword, it's not really a mechanic, because it's not moving anything. Like the flavor words from the D&D set. It says, whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control. That's what all Alliance is. Double Devilish Valet's power until end of turn. So the fact that this has Trample and Haste for that matter, but the fact that it has Trample means if you're building a bunch of tokens like in your Jetmir deck out onto your battlefield, this gets out of control pretty quickly. So your first creature enters in, it's a 2/3. Second creature, it's a 4/3. Third creature, it's an 8/3. 16. 32. So if you can find a way to pump out a bunch of creatures, unbelievably, it's just it's your hammer, like in the art. On its own, though, it's kind of medium. Like, if you're only putting 1 creature into play each turn, maybe, then, like, getting, like, a 2/3 Trample Haste isn't the best rate. You want to do, I think, at least 2, right? You want this to be a 4/3 pretty reliably. So you want to have like you want to have retreat. Just all the things that make creatures every turn. Yeah, it's just good alongside token generators, essentially. Go figure. Professional Face Breaker. The 3-mana 2/3 for 2 and a red. It's a human warrior. It has Menace. Is whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token. Sacrifice a treasure, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. This does a lot of things that red likes to see. And there is a Treasure Matters Jund archetype that this fits into. But even outside of that archetype... sorry. Even outside that archetype, you're playing this in red, and your creatures are likely dealing damage to the opponent. So, like, even if you play this on 3, you probably have a 1 and a 2 drop in your mono red deck. You hit with that, you get 2 treasure tokens. Or no, you only get 1. It's only whenever any amount of creatures deal damage. You get 1, but that means you're hitting your land drops, essentially. Treasures are land drops to mono red, okay? And then it's also giving you some amount of card advantage. So helpful. I like everything about this card. It doesn't need to have synergy with treasure tokens to be good. It just needs to go in a deck where your creatures are hitting face. And then you'll be happy with everything this card does. Pyre Sledge Arsonist, 3-mana 2/2 Viashino Shayaman for 2 and a red. Says 1 tap. Pyre Sledge Arsonist deals X damage to any target where X is the number of permanents you sacrifice this turn. So this is like a delayed Mayhem Devil. A delayed one-sided Mayhem Devil. Where you're a sacrifice deck, you sacrifice all your things, and then you pay 1, tap it, dome your opponent for 1,000,000. This is also really good in the Jund treasure deck that I've built, where you're just going to make a bunch of treasures, sacrifice them, and then tap this to do a bunch of damage. It goes face, it hits creatures, it hits planeswalkers. You're happy about everything this card does. You really want some amount of sacrifice in your deck, though, especially since it only counts what you've sacrificed. You don't want this sitting out there as a 3-mana 2/2. It's a little, the stats are a little weak, but I think you can live with it for what it gives you. It doesn't replace Mayhem Devil, it plays with Mayhem Devil. Witty Roastmaster is a 3-mana... Witty Roastmaster is a 3-mana 3/2 for 2 and a red. Devil Citizen. It has Alliance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. Finally we have Tremors. Oh, I forgot the name. I got so excited I forgot the name. Impact Tremors. It's funny because I had an idea for an Impact Tremors deck forever ago, before Arena had Impact Tremors, and now that it has Impact Tremors, I don't remember what that idea was. So yeah, but I mean, like, it's a Jetmir card, or it's a Cabaretti card. It says it right here. I can just read the thing. It's a Cabaretti card. You can put it in your Jetmir deck where you're making a bunch of tokens. There's gonna be some wacky combo. I mean, there is Presence of Gond. Presence, right? That's the... Yeah. So Presence of Gond is a 3... Presence of Gond, 3-mana aura, 2 and a green. Kind of creature has tap, create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. And then if you have Soul Sister in play and you enchant a paladin that untaps every time you gain a life, that's infinite creatures, infinite life gained, but then you could also just do Witty Roastmaster in there for the 4-card combo. So yeah. Notably, all 3 of the creatures in that combo get hit off of Collected Company. Something to think about. As a 3-mana 3/2, it's pretty bad, but as Impact Tremors, I'm kind of excited. Not gonna lie. Arcane Bombardment, 6-mana enchantment for 4 red. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard, then copy each card exiled with Arcane Bombardment. You may cast any number of the copies without paying their mana cost. The thing to keep in mind is, when you exile a card, it stays under Arcane Bombardment, and the next time you cast a spell, every card you've exiled with it gets done again. It's a very big mana card, you know, big spells deck, Metallurgic Summoning, Shark Typhoon style deck. It's got big Timmy energy, and I just want to play. It's probably bad, but, you know, have fun. Just for once in your life, I dare you to have fun and play this card. Glittering Stockpile, 3-mana artifact treasure for 2 and a red. Tap, add red. Put a stash counter on Glittering Stockpile. Tap, sacrifice Glittering Stockpile. Add X mana of any one color where X is the number of stash counters on Glittering Stockpile. And then it has a static text that says, make Magic Twitter mad. I love this. Okay, I'm going to step aside from my review from a historic Brawl perspective and just talk about the flavor of this card. So the thing people have an issue with is this is typed as a treasure, but it doesn't have the generic tap, sacrifice, add 1 mana of any color. And I think it's because it's just more, it does have that ability. It's just, there's more flavor here. Like, you're stocking your treasure away. So it's not just one treasure, it's multiple treasures. So when you sacrifice it, you don't get just 1 mana, you get a bunch of mana. Anyway, back to the card. This is great in Joyra style decks. It's a ramp card that eventually you're just going to sacrifice, make 1 billion mana, and do ridiculous things with. I'm sure it's good in other decks, but all I can think about is Joyrith. Like, cast this, draw a card, cast this early, stash a counter on it. Oh, man. Yeah, like, if you play this on turn 3, right? You tap it to add a red for no reason whatsoever. No, okay. So you'd have to... So then... Doing some math here, sorry. So turn 2, you do a rock. Turn 3, you play your 3rd land, you play this. Tap this. Look, it's still a good card, okay? It's gonna take some fiddling. Oh, and for all of you Paradox Engine fans out there, whoo boy. Like you needed more mana. Like you needed more mana. Urabrask Heretic Praetor is a 5-mana 4/4 Phyrexian Praetor and it's a legendary, for 3 red. It has haste, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. And then it says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, the next time they would draw a card this turn, instead, they exile the top card of their library. They may play it this turn. So the first ability is like an outpost ability or Advances Blasting Cannon's ability. The second ability is effectively nullifying your opponent's draw to their hand, where it negates it negates counter spells. It makes their instant speed interactions a lot worse. Yeah. It notably doesn't hit all of their draws, but hitting one of their draws is probably enough just to annoy the snot out of them. And it's face-up exiled, so you know what they have. They have to play it that turn or else they'll lose it. And it doesn't give them an extra draw, so they just lose their draw step. Yeah, I like this card. Some people seem down on it, but it's a 5-mana 4/4 beater that draws you cards. Stop being picky. Jaxus, the Troublemaker, is a 4-mana 2/3 human warrior. It's a legendary creature for 3 and a red. Red and tap, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of another target creature you control. It gains haste, and whenever it gains blitz. Or you can blitz this for 1 and a red. This is if the Kiki Jiki, if reflections of the Kiki Jiki have taught us anything, making copies of your creatures is really good, regardless of a lot of things, honestly. I think this card's really good. I think you put this next to Reflection of Kiki Jiki. You know, it says Riveteers, but it fits into so many different things. Could I play this as Commander? I kind of want to see this next to Chainer, since you care about discarding so much. I don't think I would play it as the commander. I'd probably just leave it in the 99. Big Score, 3 red instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, draw 2, create 2 treasure tokens. This is the 3rd version of this card. It's literally 4 mana, discard, draw 2, create 2. Only 1 red pip. This card's very good. I mean, very good. It's as good as these cards are, slightly better because of its cost and the fact that it's an instant. I'm going to play this in a few things, but oh, you can play this in that big spell stack I was talking about with the enchantment, because it ramps you and it draws cards, and then you have 2 things in your graveyard that you can exile with your enchantment. Ooh, it's getting spicy in here. But yeah, we've seen this card. We know how it plays out. So if you're already playing this card, now you have a 3rd copy of it. Structural Assault. 3 red for a sorcery. Destroy all artifacts. And this deals damage to each creature equal to the number of artifacts that were put into the graveyard from the battlefield this turn. This feels like a sideboard card or a weird combo card, where you have like a creature that whenever it's dealt damage deals that much damage to your opponent, and you're just making a bunch of like treasures or something, and then you cast Structural Assault and dome them because you have all these treasures. I feel like you could be doing better things if you've reached that point. Like, this just feels like your opponent in your best of 3 match has a bunch of artifacts and you don't like them, so you cast this. Right, we're moving on to green. Hell, I've never done this before. Gala Greeters is a 1 green 1/1 elf druid with Alliance. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, choose one that hasn't been chosen this turn. You can either put a +1/+1 counter on it, create a tapped treasure token, or gain 2 life. Cabaret or add it again. I like this card because it's like it's what I was saying, where like at its best you feel like you're getting away with something. You're putting 3 creatures into play, putting counter on this, gaining 2 life, creating a tap treasure token. But even at its worst, where like you're only putting 1 creature into play, you're either ramping or making a very large threat. And I think that is a very good baseline. Both of those modes are good. I think you're happiest at like 2 creatures. Like 3 creatures are just over the moon, obviously. But like, if you can reliably put 1 or 2 creatures into play every turn, this card is gonna go off. It is just a 1/1 though, so it's got to live. It either has to live a turn or you cast it on a turn when you're about to cast another creature. Venom Connoisseur is a 2-mana 2/2 human druid for 1 and a green. It has Alliance that says it gains Death Touch until end of turn. But if it's the second time this ability has resolved this turn, all creatures you control gain Death Touch until end of turn. So this isn't even really go wide. This is kind of asking you to only cast 2 creatures a turn or put 2 creatures into play a turn. Because once you've hit the like 3rd one, you're not really getting a benefit. Then you make blocks very, very impossible for your opponent when you swing in with a bunch of 1/1 Death Touchers. You can use the. I was thinking of Finn the Fangbearer, but the problem with that is you kind of want all your creatures to already have Death Touch if you're playing Finn the Fangbearer. You could build the deck where you have fewer Death Touch creatures because you expect to find Venom Connoisseur, but then you run the risk of not finding Venom Connoisseur. So I think you want to just focus this on like you have tiny creatures, giving them Death Touch is bad for your opponent type deck. Jewel Thief is just a common? What? A 3-mana 3/3 cat rogue for 2 green, has vigilance and trample. And already I'm just like, yeah, I'm sold. I like this card. But wait, there's more. When it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token. Yeah, it's a good card. It's similar to the 3-mana thing that makes a clue when it enters the battlefield. But it ramps you and it doesn't get smaller when you lose a token. And it's a cat, which has some amount of relevance in this set. There might actually be a cats and dogs deck now. So, yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Topiary Stomper is a 3-mana 4/4 plant dinosaur for 1 green, has vigilance, and whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It can't attack or block unless you control 7 or more lands. This compares to the dinosaur that's a 3-mana 5/5. You can play an additional land, and once you get the City's Blessing, which is 10 permanents in play, it can attack or block. It's a little bit smaller, but it gains vigilance. It ramps you automatically and guaranteed. A little bit harder to cast. I think getting to 7 lands is easier than getting 10 permanents, but they're really close. Like, if you want to get 10 permanents, or if you're trying to get 7 lands, the time frame is very, very similar. It does limit what this can go in, though, because, like, with the 5/5, you can be putting in other creatures, right, and get out to 10. So you're not necessarily ramping, but you are putting more permanents into play, and then it can attack. Whereas this, you specifically want to land ramp to get it to attack. It seems okay. I think that's like actually the drawback is it's just very narrow. You have to be wanting to land ramp with this. So I don't know. It does ramp at least. It's 3-mana rampant growth that eventually gets you a 4/4. So from that perspective, it's pretty good. Workshop War Chief 5-mana 5/3 Rhino Warrior for 3 green has trample. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. When it dies, notably, create a 4/4 green Rhino creature token. And it has Blitz for 4 green. Whew. This card is very, very good. Like, at the 1 extra cost for Blitz, you get a 5/3 Trampler, gains 3 life, draws a card, and makes a 4/4 when it dies. What's everyone's favorite 5/3? God, I can't remember his name. So it doesn't get the leaves trigger that the other one gets, but it leaves behind a 4/4 instead of a 3/3. It has trample. It has the blitz. Drag Tusk. Yeah. Yeah, so you gain less life, but you gain trample. You don't get the, it's not a leaves the battlefield, it's a dies trigger, but you get a 4/4 instead of a 3/3. And I think Blitz is honestly the biggest upside here. Paying 6 mana to get the Blitz going. Whew. Titan of Industry. It has reach, chat. It has reach. All right, Titan of Industry is a 7 mana 7/7 elemental for 4 green. It has reach and trample, and when it enters the battlefield, choose 2. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Target player gains 5 life. Create a 4/4 green Rhino Warrior creature token, or put a shield counter on target creature you control. It just rolls the 2 modes from the last creature all into one, and also you get a 7/7 reach trample. Right? You can gain 5 life and make a 4/4. And also have this 7/7. Oh boy. If you're looking for a way, like, this is a broker's card, but if you're looking for a way in your Cabaretti deck to get 3 creature or 2 creatures into play in 1 turn, boom, there you go. You can reanimate this because it's an enter the battlefield effect instead of a like cast effect. It's big, it's dumb. I don't know if it goes into keyword big, but it might. But it might. Oh my god. So many tabs. Vivian of the Hunt is a 6 mana Vivian Planeswalker for 4 green. Comes in with 4 loyalty counters. +2. You may sacrifice a creature. If you do, search your library for a creature card with mana value equal to 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. +1, mill 5, then put any number of creature cards milled this way into your hand. And -1, make a 4/4. I mean, yeah. This is a another a card that's banned in Modern that everyone loves. See, this is why I don't do set reviews. I don't remember card names. Pod. It's another pod for Pod Mom. I don't even remember her name. But yeah. You like Pod? Well, boy, have I got some news for you. Because you can pod. This means you can pod something other than a blink effect with Pod Mom. And then pod that with this to blink Mom. Keep going. Like, it gives you another thing. Look, people know their pod chains better than I do. I'm not that birthing pod. Got there. I'm not that familiar with the chain stuff, but I imagine that this card is going to do a lot of work in there. And then literal worst case scenario is you make 4 4/4s. I just made myself sick looking at this card. Bootlegger's Stash. 5 and a green for an artifact. It says lands you control have tap, create a treasure token. Hello, Wilderness Reclamation. Have you ever read the card Wilderness Reclamation and thought it needs to be more broken? Look, it's a 100-card singleton format. Don't get me wrong, but this card seems stupid. Gosh, if only I had ways to untap my lands and endlessly make treasure tokens and then needlessly cast large spells. I guess I can't really talk. I play Omniscience in multiple decks. It's Winmore. Galta. For the 7/7, you mean? I assume. What? Or are you talking about Bootlegger's Stash? I don't know if this is good in Galta. I think you'd rather just have creatures, but it is good. Fight rigging. Here we go. 2 and a green for enchantment. Hideaway 5 at the beginning of combat on your turn. Other than I. At the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if you control a creature with power 7 or greater, you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost. This is the one that I think will actually use the hideaway the easiest. Zakama. Ah, okay. Oh, Zakama. Oh, Zakama. Because when it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, tap all lands you control. Ooh. Yeah, that's dumb. That'll go in Zakama easy. So you have the 6/4 that we talked about. This puts a +1/+1 counter on it. It's a 7/5. You get to cast a spell. You have Rotting Regisaur. That's a 7/6. You have even just like your medium creatures like Questing Beast will get up there. Just oh my god. This you're gonna cast things off of this so easily. This is the one I think is the best of the hideaways for specifically doing the hideaway thing. I think it's going to be super easy to get up there and just do this one. But I'm probably wrong. So you're putting a +1/+1 counter on a creature every turn, which is fine. Live with that, I guess. Ardent Scales loves it. God bless America. Bouncer's Beatdown, 2 and a green instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast if it targets a black permanent. It deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. If that creature or planeswalker would die this turn, exile it instead. Typically, I wouldn't, 1, show a 3-mana fight spell, or 2, show a color hoser. But, well, it's not a fight spell, it's a bite spell. But I think this one might get there just because it exiles the thing it kills. It's close. It might not be good because there are about 100 different good bite spells on Arena right now. But instant speed is relevant. You know, maybe you pay the 1 extra just to instant speed it. And then sometimes you only pay 1 mana for it and you laugh and you say, ha ha ha, I killed your Sorin. Something. Yeah, it's an okay card. All right, we're into colors. I can almost see the end. Been talking for an hour and a half. Luxior, Gyada's Gift. 1 mana, legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each counter on it. Equipped permanent isn't a planeswalker and is a creature in addition to its other types. Loyalty abilities can still be activated. Equip planeswalker for 1 mana. Equip for 3. So, equipping a creature, it's total 4, but you're in your Hardened Scales deck. Your creatures have tons of +1/+1 counters. This is doing silly things. Fun. You're in your Super Friends deck. You have like your not Sorin, Dragon Hands guy. Sarkhan. You have Sarkhan as your like payoff for playing all these planeswalkers. Now you have a backup plan where you can just hook this onto something and smash in. You have the green creature that does the +1/+1 counters, or counters in general, that doubles. If you don't have your planeswalker out that wins you the game, you can hook this onto a creature with so many counters on it. Boom, hit them with this. I think this is a decent card. Obviously you have to have a deck that's built around it. The planeswalkers might be a bit cute, but putting this on a creature seems legit. Too legit to quit, in fact. Oh, I like this in Nahiri, right? How many counters does Nahiri come in with? Nahiri comes in with 4 counters and plus is 1. So she's like a 4-mana 5/5 with this. The issue you'll come across is that it doesn't have any sort of evasion or protection baked into the thing. So you want like the Wandering Emperor style effects. So the Wandering Emperor is actually really good with this. She comes in with 3 loyalty, and you can +1 to put a +1/+1 counter on her. So she's 5/5. That has first strike. This card seems fun, is the main thing. Have fun. Gilded Pinions. 2-mana artifact equipment. When it enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. Equipped creature has flying, equipped 2. I put this in here because it's kind of an interesting rock for sacrifice decks. I honestly don't read the last 2 lines. I don't read equipped creature has flying or equipped 2. I read put 2 artifacts into play, sacrifice one of them to your sacrifice ability, sacrifice the other one to make mana. Or tap this with Inspiring Statuary. So this is like double ramp with Inspiring Statuary. I think this card is very interesting. You can trash for treasure something back with this, and you still have your treasure token left over. And then in a pinch, you give something flying. That's why I wanted to talk about this card, though. I think it's more interesting because it makes 2 artifacts when it ETBs than it is interesting because it's an equipment. I'm so not interested in the equipment part. I just care about, like, this is 2 mana, I get 2 artifacts, and then I can do different things with those artifacts. That's why I like this card. So, like, Droira, the Tezzeret deck we played the other day, all sorts of nonsense. Unlicensed Hearse. 2-mana artifact vehicle. It's a star. It says tap. Exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard, and its power and toughness are equal to the number of cards exiled with it. Through 2. The more I play this format, the more I don't put that much graveyard hate in my deck. There are decks that care about the graveyard, but they're so few and far between. This, however, is an interesting one where if you get it early and you happen to be playing against a graveyard deck, you're just sitting there exiling their graveyard. I don't know. I think the format is the reason this feels kind of awkward, but I think it's a good card in general, and it's something to keep in mind if graveyard decks start to take over. I think there are obviously better answers for graveyards, but this is an answer for graveyards that can also end the game. All right, I only put Jetmir's Garden up here. There are 5 of these. This is the land section. The only lands I care about in this set are the Triomes. They're all good. You're already playing the other cycle of Triomes. Now you get to play these. Your mana's better. 5-color decks rejoice even more. Blech, I throw up a little. But no, this is good because it's the land that now the other half of the pie gets to use that they've been missing for a little bit. I like 3 and 2 color mana getting, well, this only affects 3 color. I like 3 color mana getting better. I'm glad we got these. Hooray! Now on to the multicolored, and the way I did this, I originally had 52 multicolored spells, and I'm glad I cut it down. Good lord, I'm getting tired of talking. So, the cards I chose were all of the legendary creatures, the multicolored planeswalkers, and the charms and ascendancies. I know there are other cards that are multicolored that will see Historic Brawl play, but for the most part, what I saw with them was either it's obvious how good they are and you should play them, they're obviously crap and you shouldn't play them, or they're just incredibly synergy based and the synergies are obvious. So, you know, just work from there. They all fit in one of those 3 categories. All right, let's start this off. Ginny Faye, Jetmir 2nd. Oh god, she's a 3/3 legendary creature elf druid who casts for Hybrid Gruul, green, Hybrid Selesnya. So it's 3 mana. You can either triple green it, red green white it, or red green green it, or green green white it. I don't know. It's a lot. Anyway. If you would create 1 or more tokens, you may instead create that many 2/2 green cat creature tokens with haste, or that many 3/1 green dog creature tokens with vigilance. This card is so fun. This is just like, it can be treasure tokens. It doesn't matter what kind of token you're creating. You can create 2/2 cats. This is a card I was saying will bring back, well, not bring back, but maybe fix, save, create in the first place a cats and dogs deck. Because now we can just play any old tokens and they're cats and dogs. So, yeah. I love when legendary creatures are able to dictate a new archetype this hard. Like, just drag it kicking and screaming across the finish line. Lagrea? The Magpie. Green, white, and blue for a 2/3 legendary creature, human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, exile any number of other target creatures controlled by different players until she leaves the battlefield. When an exiled card enters the battlefield under your control this way, put 2+1/+1 counters on it. Let me translate this for Magic Twitter. Coming for you, Magic Twitter. When this enters the battlefield, so specifically for Historic Brawl, when this enters the battlefield, you can exile a creature your opponent controls, and you can exile a creature you control, and that's it. And then, when she leaves the battlefield, those creatures come back into play. So if you only exile your creature, and then say at the end of turn, you Thassa blink this, the creature you exiled will then enter the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters on. So I've been playing Yorion as my blink commander, but now that we have this, we get to add green in there, which is kind of interesting. I guess Chulane could be seen as well, Chulane's like a bounce. But yeah, this means we get to expand into green, get Witness in there. You know, just find a few green cards that make sense with it. I don't know that you're ever exiling an opponent's creature, though, unless you're, like, in a pinch and need to, obviously. But, like, I think you want to focus on blinking your own stuff. So you want to exile something under her and then blink her. Raffine, Scheming Seer, is a 1/4 legendary creature Sphinx Demon for white, blue, black. Flying, Ward 1. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature connives X, where X is the number of attacking creatures. Wow. So, typically, connive is just you attack, you draw a card, discard a card, but this is you attack, you draw however many cards for attacking creatures you control, and then discard that many cards. a lot of my brain is like animator, control, but I think this is actually a super aggro card. This is like the Planeswalker that's blue and a black for 3 mana. Saito, I would say. Kaido Shizuki. It's like Kaido Suzuki style aggro, where like you make a bunch of small unblockable stuff, and then you get to draw cards and make them bigger now. I guess you're not blocking as much, but I do think Kaido works really well in a Rafine deck. I'd like to see an Esper style aggro deck as opposed to Esper control. Could be Esper tempo. You know, some of those curiosity cards we were talking about earlier could work really well in this deck. Esper's not my wheelhouse, but aggro kind of is, so we might see what's up. We might check this out. I'm sure I'm going to queue into Rafine. It's just going to be endless counter spells. Because I know how arena players be. But I'm excited for an Esper commander that breaks the mold, right? Rigo, Streetwise Mentor. Oh, God. It's a 2/2 legendary creature cat citizen. It casts for ridiculous mana. Hybrid Selesnya, white. Hybrid Azorius. So green, white, or green or white, white or blue. When it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. Whenever you attack a player or planeswalker with 1 or more creatures with power 1 or less, draw a card. Oh, so here's another interesting payoff for the Kraken, right? Oh, man. This is another Curiosity style deck. And then you can play... Oh, God. They're making me remember cards that are, like, in the back of my head. Hold on. I'll get this one. Blue... And Tetsuko Umezawa, Fugitive. 1 in a blue for 1/3 creatures you control with power toughness 1 or less can't be blocked. Goes really well in here. So you make all your 1 power stuff unblockable, and then they draw a card. I like it. There's a little spice going on here. There's a little something we can work with. Huh. And then you can also, because you're in green, you can have 1/1 Death Touchers so that your opponent won't want to block. Or even if they do, you get to kill their creature and draw a card. And then white can be like your protection suite. You can use the tappers that have 1 power. Make it easier to get through. Okay. I see what this cat is cooking. Also, it's supposed to be a joke about, like, the citizens are 1/1 tokens, so you have that going on. I was gonna say I want to see this in the 99 of, like, the cat lady we talked about earlier, because this is a cat. Although I don't remember if the colors work. But I want to see this as a commander now. I want to put Tetsuko in there and go to town. This set is making me want to attack more, and I already wanted to attack. Falco Spara, Pact Weaver. That was a weird way to say that. It's a 3/3 legendary creature, bird demon for 1 green, white, blue. Flying, trample. When it enters the battlefield, I keep doing that. They keep getting me with these shield counters. It enters the battlefield with a shield counter on it. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells from the top of your library by removing a counter from a creature you control in addition to paying their other costs. This is a very weird balance of I want to be a control commander because I'm like looking at the top of my library. I'm essentially drawing a card every time I cast a spell. but I also want to have creatures with counters on them. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. So the green is putting counters on. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this card. Right now, I'm just not seeing it because it's this weird split. But then again, like, aggro decks having card advantage is pretty sweet. So you're just like a counters aggro deck that also plays counters. That's called tempo. Yeah. Might make something work with that. I'm less excited about this commander. I can see where it works, but it's also kind of weird to me. All right. Carmella, Glamour Thief. A 2/4 legendary creature vampire rogue for 1 and a Grixis or 1 and a Maestro. Blue, black, red. Blue, black, red. Has haste and 1 and tap, add blue, black, red. Spend this mana only to cast instant and or sorcery spells. And when it dies, return up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. Finally, we have a Grixis commander that can be a spells commander, can do something other than be Nicol Bolas or a big dragon that you don't care about. I'm very excited for Carmella. I've already brewed a deck. I just want to cast all the spells and do all the dumb stuff. She's also neat because she's like 2 different types of Spells Matter commander, right? You can have her just be like your regular Spells Matter commander where you have like your piddly creatures that make things when you cast spells, and then you just have extra mana to cast spells and you're drawing cards. Or you can be a big spell deck where you're taking advantage of the fact that like the turn after you cast her, you have like 8 mana to play with. 5, 6, 7. You have 7 mana to play with, if not more. And then you can do really stupid stuff. You can cast Mizzix Mastery off of her. And then once, yeah, she's exciting because she's flexible in her narrowness. She's an uncommon too. Like, what? The disrespect. Tola's Clever Conductor. A 3/1 legendary creature human rogue. Cast for Azorius Blue Dimir. When it enters the battlefield, it connives, and whenever you discard 1 or more cards, exile them from your graveyard. When it dies, put the cards exiled with it into their owner's hand. Every time I read this, I'm actually a little disappointed because I'd really like to build an Esper Reanimator deck with her as the commander, but I don't want to exile the cards that I discard. It's at best a 4/2 for 3. Then you discard cards. And then you sacrifice her. And then you draw those cards back. Someone much smarter than me is going to break this. But I don't think I have the brain capacity, especially in this moment, to do it myself. Rocco, Cabaretti Caterer. It's a 3/1 legendary creature elf druid for X red, green, white. When it enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you may search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. We just put Finale into the command zone. We just put Finale into the command zone. Sure. It's good because it, like, you can cast this for 4 and get a mana dork early. Cast this for 5 and get your 2-drop. You know, you're getting a 3/1 regardless, and you're also, like, getting something else along with it, regardless of where you cast it along the curve. So it's very much worth it. But if you hold on to it, you're guaranteed to have your win condition. And it's an elf. So you can just be mono green elves and then splash like actual good removal in red and white. And there are also some things in white that like pump your creatures based off type. This could be a sneaky good elf commander. I think that's the ticket on this one. That's the thing that's got me thinking is like, what if elf commander? You lose black, right? Because elves aren't necessarily mono green. There are green black elves, but the white and the red could make this interesting. Jetmir, Nexus of Rebels, is a 5/4 legendary creature cat demon for 1 red, green, white. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have vigilance as long as you control 3 or more creatures. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample as long as you control 6 or more creatures. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and to have double strike as long as you control 9 or more creatures. Go wide with tokens. Tokens. Doesn't matter. Tokens. Ah! Look, you're probably winning if you hit the second mode on this, but just go for broke. Hit the third. Get there. I like this card. I know a lot of people were talking smack about my cat, but fat cats come to play now, and you can't run fast enough. You'd better stay away when Jetmir comes to shove. Mr. Orfeo the Boulder is a 2/4 legendary creature Rhino Warrior for 1 black, red, green. Says whenever you attack, double target creature's power until next turn. Big Rhino Warrior friend. You attack with the creature. Double its power. And then slam Embercleave onto it. This guy says, I want to attack you, and I want to attack you all the time. And I'm here for him. I'm kind of keen on him in the 99 as opposed to Commander. Notable, he is a warrior. So now we have a Commander for different colors of the warrior pie, other than like red, white. I know there's a 5-color Commander, but like now you get to do red, black, green instead. So that's cool. Just super aggro. Super there with the shovel to smack you in the face when you're least expecting it. Ognis the Dragon's Lash is a 3/3 legendary creature Viashino warrior. Cast for 1 Rakdos red Gruul. It's casting cost, I swear. Has haste, and whenever a creature you control with haste attacks, create a tapped treasure token. So at the very least, what she does is cast herself, pay for half of her commander tax. At the very least. Then yeah, you just play a bunch of hasty things. Go burr. So, oh yeah, so this is the deck I built around treasures. I have a bunch of haste things. And then you just put a bunch of treasure tokens into play, and then you sacrifice all of them, and then Mayhem Devil just destroys. Kill them all. Probably not that good. The tapped is kind of awkward. But I think it's fine. Maybe you put a bunch of creatures in your deck that care about artifacts entering the battlefield. Who knows? Quasar, Augur of Agonies. Legendary creature, Cephalid Advisor. It's a 3/4 for 1 white, blue, black. It reads, whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses a life and you gain a life. Please come to me, my combo god. Please. This is just misery incarnate combos all rolled into one. We're talking emergency powers with Narset. We're talking underworld dreams and peer into the abyss. We're just talking commit memory nonsense. We're going to do it all. We're going to draw all the cards. We're going to let you draw cards too, but you're not going to like the result. And it's just going to be misery incarnate. Augur of Agonies is right. I'm here for this awful, awful card. Definitely a commander. 100% going to cause my opponents to hate me. And I want to play this so hard. Also, it's a cephalid. Obnixilis the Adversary is a 3-mana legendary planeswalker Nixilis that casts for 1 black red. It has Casualty X. The copy isn't legendary and has starting loyalty X. And it says +1, each opponent loses 2 life unless they discard a card. If you control a demon or devil, you gain 2 life. -2, create a 1/1 red devil creature token with when this creature dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And -7, target player draws 7 cards and loses 7 life. I'm sad that he isn't Obscura. I would put him in the deck, in the Quasi deck we just talked about. No, so the big thing you want to do here is the Casualty X. You want to cast this, sacrifice your Rotting Regisaur, and then -7 it and draw 7 cards. Or -7 it and make your opponent draw 7 cards, lose 7 life, lose the game. You know, that's what we're talking here. We're talking big creatures that have dies triggers, or you have sacrifice triggers that you care about. You sacrifice them to the Casualty, and you get value. I could see this as a commander, but it's probably going to end up in the Jund sacrifice deck. Or, like I said, just create its own archetype that I was describing, like big, stupid creatures that you sacrifice to the Casualty to do nonsense stuff. Lord Xander the Collector is a 6/6 legendary creature vampire demon noble. Cast for 4 blue, black, red. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent discards half their cards in hand. Rounded down. When it attacks, defending player mills half their library. Rounded down. When it dies, target opponent sacrifices half the non-land permanents they control. Rounded down. I don't like this as a commander. I like this in the 99 of a Reanimator style deck, which is a little bit difficult because I don't think Grixis is where you want to be for Reanimator, but you're going to make anything work when you have something like this. I know I made the like, oh, I'm sad voice for all of the rounded down text. All of the text is great, honestly. You know, give this thing haste. Enters the battlefield, it attacks, and then at end of turn, you sacrifice it. You make your opponent very, very sad. Then you reanimate it again. Do it all over again. It likes Through the Breach. We don't have. We do have the Bronze God. Perforos, Bronze Blooded. 2 in a red. You may put a red creature card or an artifact card from your hand onto the battlefield. Sacrifice at the beginning of the end step. So yeah, that's the kind of deck you want to think about when you're thinking about Lord Xander. What did I just do? I have no idea what I hit. That was weird. I literally couldn't do that again if I tried. Yeah. So, not a commander, but still a really good card to have for your Reanimate / Through the Breach style decks. Zeatora the Incinerator is a 6/6 legendary creature demon dragon. Cast for 3 black, red, green. Has flying and says, at the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, Zeatora the Incinerator deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. Oh my god. Oh my god. This is a very good card that is, I don't know, I haven't played this deck, so hold on. I don't know if this is the commander or if this is just in the 99, but it's definitely seeing play. It's seeing play in Core Vault. It's a Core Vault card, right? You're either playing Corvald as your commander, or you're playing Zayatora, and you're happy either way. You want both of them on the battlefield at the same time, honestly, and it's gonna be ridiculous. Your opponents will hate you. I'll hate you. Sorry, I thought I heard a... Yeah, A+, play it. If you're already playing the Jund archetype for sacrifice, this is your new best friend. Evelyn the Covetous is a 2/5 legendary creature vampire rogue. Cast for 2 Dimir Black Rakdos. Sounds like I'm speaking in code. Has Flash. Whenever it or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you controlled, and you may spend mana as though it were any color to cast it. So, this is a Grixis Vampire Steal Your Spells commander. Once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it, if it was exiled by... Okay. You can only play the stuff she steals. I guess you just play like a bunch of vampires, steal their stuff? Like, even if you don't get to cast it? Well, notably, they have collection counters, so even if she dies, you can cast her again and still cast those spells. Flash is really weird. The alt art kind of sends me. She's just like, stab you in the eye. Stab. I don't know. I've built a Steal Your Stuff deck before. It was just Dimir. I don't know what red would add. You get vampires. You really can't play other creatures. You just want vampires so that you can proc this as much as possible. Weird. I graded a weird. All right. We're into the ascendancies and then the charms. And that's the review. Oh my god, we're almost at 2 hours of this review. Broker's Ascendancy is green, white, and blue enchantment. It says at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. I like this in a deck that's using planeswalkers to make tokens. So there are plenty that do it. Also of note, all of the War of the Spark commanders that only tick down now get to tick up every single turn. I think this card is really interesting. Obviously, it can't be your commander, but it can be kind of a build around like Hardened Scale Super Friends style decks. I want to try that. I want to get my hands on it. I want to do some stupid things. Yeah, just a bunch of like dorky creatures, put counters on them. They're less dorky. You put the sword that turns your planeswalker into a creature on one of your planeswalkers, then you put a +1/+1 counter on it, and also you get to tick it up. Oh yeah, all right, yeah. This is gonna do some fun stuff. Not necessarily good stuff, just fun stuff. Cabaret Ascendancy, green, red. Blah, blah, blah. I said that backwards, but it was still technically right. Red, green, white enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature or planeswalker card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. If you don't put that card into your hand, you may put it on the bottom of your library. This is less exciting, but it's definitely still a good card. We're looking at card advantage here. So it's either card advantage because you're drawing a creature or planeswalker card, or it's card selection because you get to bottom it if you want. It's still only 3 mana, so it's probably worth it in your red, green, white creature / planeswalker. It doesn't even have to be creature planeswalker deck. Honestly, missing with this card is fine because then you just bottom it, or you know, you get to choose whether you bottom it or not. Which is nice. It's like a free scry. I'm not as excited about this card, but I still think it's good. Where I land on that one. Maestro's Ascendancy. Blue, black, red. For an enchantment, once during each of your turns, you may cast an instant or sorcery spell from your graveyard by sacrificing a creature in addition to paying its other costs. Spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile instead. So it gives flashback at the cost of sacrificing a creature. This works great in the deck I was talking about where you're playing all the young pyromancers in the world. You only get to do it on your turn, which is a little sad, but you're just happy because you're casting spells. And I think that's great. You get an extra... You draw a spell every turn. And in the deck I'm talking about, it doesn't cost you anything because you're going to cast a spell and then you get your 1/1 back. So, yeah. That's what this is looking to do. Riveteer's Ascendancy, black, red, green. For an enchantment, whenever you sacrifice a creature, you may return target creature card lesser mana value from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Do this once each turn. So you get to do this on your turn and your opponent's turn. It's 2 per cycle. So you can't like endlessly sacrifice creature. Oh my god, the music stopped. You can't do this endlessly in your sacrifice deck, but I still think you're gonna put this in here because these type of cards are really busted. Just like sacrifice your 3, get your 2, things like that. It's gonna be good. The limit is there because it's good. So Obscura Ascendancy, white, blue, black. For enchantment, whenever you cast a spell, if its mana value is equal to 1 plus the number of soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, put a soul counter on it. Then create a 2/2 white spirit creature token with flying. As long as there are 5 or more soul counters on Obscura Ascendancy, spirits you control get +3/+3. This feels to me like you're building an Esper Spirits deck, but thinking about it, there isn't an Esper Spirits commander, so you're going to end up building an Enchantress deck around the Eldraine commander. You're looking at Alayla Artful Provocateur. She makes fairies, but she cares about you casting enchantments. So you're just like... Where was I going with this? I mean, this doesn't... This just pumps... Yeah, like... I guess you play this anywhere. Like, if you have a decent curve... You cast a 1-mana spell, put a counter on this. Cast a 2-mana spell. Yeah, this is gonna get out of control, I think. Ooh, maybe you can even put the blue 3-drop in that proliferates. Flux Channeler, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, proliferate. Boom. Counter, +3/+3 spirits. Yeah. I wouldn't worry too much with this card about a spirit theme. I would worry more about just casting spells consistently, and it'll take care of the spirits from there. Oh, the reason I was talking about Enchantress, though. We have... We have Hallowed Haunting. As long as you control 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance. Whenever you cast an enchantment spell, create a white spirit creature token with this creature's power and toughness are each equal to the number of spirits you control. So you can curve Obscura into Hallowed Haunting. And then the next turn, you just cast your like 1-drop and then 2, and then you go off. So yeah. And also, Goshentai of Shared Purpose is an enchantment that makes a colorless spirit token. Could be neat. All right, we're on to the charms. 5 to go. I'm almost done. Maestro's Charm, cast for blue, black, red, is an instant. Choose one. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Put one of those cards into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life, or Maestro's Charm deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker. 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker is probably the best mode on this. Lightning Helix, but only your opponent is fine. Ends games. Look at the top 5, put one into your hand and the rest in your graveyard. It's pretty good, actually. 5 is a big number. I know 3 is a lot of mana, but what you have to remember with these, you're casting these for 3, and you're getting 3 modes that aren't their best version. But if you're happy in the moment with one of those modes, then you don't mind it. It's like, modal spells are really good. It's the idea. Yeah. I think this one's good. I think the mode you're using the most is the bottom mode, though. Have a Ready Charm, red, green, and white for an instant. Deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature or planeswalker. Creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain trample until end of turn, or create 2 1/1 tokens. So this one is like a Jetmir thing. You get to make 2 tokens. It's probably one of the most used modes, but if you get this late, that +1/+1 and trample is gonna end the game. That is an actual just, the game has ended, we're moving on now mode. So I'd watch out for that. And then in a pinch, you get to use the top mode. It's not the best version of it. It usually costs 1 or 2 mana, and now it costs 3, but you'll live with it. Broker's Charm, green, white, and a blue for an instant. Target creature control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker and opponent controls. Destroy target enchantment or draw 2 cards. Yeah, fine. Like, we've proven before that 3 mana draw 2 is perfectly fine. The charm from Modern Horizons is a 3 blue pip draw 2 sometimes. And then the other things this is doing, you're perfectly fine doing. It's a little sad you don't get to hit an artifact with this, but there are so many enchantments in this format that are worth paying 3 mana to destroy. You're perfectly okay using. I think that's what you're going to find me saying about most of these, is the modes are fine and you'll be happy casting it. Black, red, green for Riveteer's Charm. Instant. Target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. It's Soul Shatter. Exile the top 3 cards from your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. Or exile target player's graveyard. This one's probably my least favorite. Soul Shatter is a good card, but I don't think anyone plays it that much in Historic Brawl. And the phrasing on the second mode is kind of awkward. It makes you kind of want to cast this in your end step so that you have it through your opponent's turn and your next turn. But yeah. Often we'll just read top 3 cards and then play them this turn. But you can cast this in your opponent's end step. Get him next turn. Yeah. Exile target player's graveyard. Like I mentioned earlier, it's not a huge deal in this format. I think graveyards aren't as much of a resource as they could be. And our last card of this 2-hour plus set review. Obscura Charm. White, blue, black. Instant. Choose one. Turn target multicolored permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Counter target instant or sorcery spell. Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. So eliminate, dispel, and a tiny reanimate spell. Multicolored's a little rough on that first one, but the second 2 modes are pretty good. The deck I'm thinking of for Obscura stuff is the like tiny beaters with curiosity style effects on them, and this doesn't do a lot there because most of the tiny beaters are monocolored. But it does give a little bit of protection, and it does have removal attached to it, so it'll still probably find its way into it. Okay. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes of straight talking. I hope you enjoyed this set review. I will be... I'll be looking really forward to playing a lot of new Capenna in any capacity. Honestly, I want to draft this. I want to play it in Historic Brawl. I want to play it in Explorer. So, but for Historic Brawl, I think there are a lot of very good cards that were added. It's a tricolor set, so there are even more cards that I didn't cover that are like 2 colors that work really well with a bunch of different archetypes. I'm excited to see what people come up with. And yeah, thank you for watching this very long and possibly sleep-inducing set review. Goodbye, YouTube.